On Friday, 25th of April, I attended an Anzac Day service with my family, a solemn ceremony dedicated to honouring and remembering the sacrifices of Australian and New Zealand military personnel who have fought in conflicts across the world to protect our freedoms. Notably, there was no Aboriginal welcome to country, suggesting the organisers either deemed it unnecessary or perhaps inappropriate for the occasion. 3 flags were displayed: the Australian flag, the New Zealand flag, and the British flag. The event was deeply respectful, and the large number of people in attendance reflected the importance and sacred nature of Anzac Day for many Australians. The Melbourne Anzac Day dawn service included a welcome to country by Aboriginal elder Uncle Mark Brown, which was met with heckles and jeers. However, instead of exploring why people were booing, the media focused on who was booing. The ABC ran the headline, "Neo-Nazis Boo Welcome to Country Address at Melbourne Anzac Day Dawn Service," while SBS reported, "Prime Minister warns of rising extremism after Anzac Day ceremony disrupted by neo-Nazis." Both articles framed the incident around the far right, with the ABC specifically referring to far-right extremists. Publicly funded broadcasters appear intent on directing attention toward the neo-Nazi and far-right elements, as if disagreement with welcome to country can only come from those extremes. However, that perception is misleading. Many Australians quietly feel growing frustration over the frequent inclusion of welcome to country ceremonies, even if they choose not to voice it publicly. For example, a recent article on news.com.au featured a poll with the headline, "Aussies overwhelmingly reject welcome to country in staggering poll." The poll asked respondents, "How do you feel about welcome to country ceremonies?" So far, over 157,000 votes have been cast, an engagement level I've rarely seen in these kinds of polls. According to the results, 3% of respondents said there should be more welcome to country ceremonies, 8% believed the current amount is appropriate, 23% thought there should be fewer, which is the option I chose, I'll explain my reasoning later, and an overwhelming 66% said the practice should stop entirely, a near supermajority. Admittedly, this poll comes from a somewhat conservative outlet, but even so, the numbers are striking. It's not just that a large number of people no longer want to listen to welcome to country ceremonies, many don't want them to exist at all. In total, nearly 90% of respondents either want fewer ceremonies or none at all. These numbers are remarkable, and it would be a mistake for politicians to ignore them. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese recently responded to the controversy surrounding the Anzac Day welcome to country, stating, "The disruption of Anzac Day is beyond contempt, and the people responsible must face the full force of the law. This was an act of low cowardice on a day when we honour courage and sacrifice." However, his response focused on the behaviour of the disruptors rather than addressing broader concerns about the inclusion of welcome to country ceremonies. Typical political rhetoric, I suppose. It's interesting, it was also widely reported, for example, in an SBS article, when the Prime Minister gave the dedication at the dawn service at the Australian War Memorial in Canberra, an attendee yelled out, "Free Palestine!" Yet the PM never condemned that behaviour. He seems to oppose interruptions to Anzac Day ceremonies when a welcome to country is involved, but yelling out "Free Palestine" appears to be acceptable. Notably, a heckler responded to the protester by saying, "Go kick a landmine." Interestingly, Australia Day, which I would argue is seen as important and sacred to many Australians, is frequently disrupted each year by protesters referring to it as Invasion Day. Many of these protesters advocate for abolishing Australia Day, or even the country itself. Is the Prime Minister standing up and calling those protesters cowards, demanding they face the full force of the law? Look, personally, I wouldn't have booed at a dawn service, but that doesn't mean people's concerns should be ignored. There were actual veterans who spoke out against the inclusion of a welcome to country. One individual, the son of a World War II veteran, was interviewed by YouTuber Connor Kennedy, and when asked about welcome to country ceremonies, replied, "Hogwash, absolute hogwash. I'm Aboriginal. I'm Australian. They're trying to split us all up. Another veteran, speaking to a Channel 9 reporter, said, "The reason why we're here is because our friends fought and died for this country, blood, sweat and tears, like their ancestors did. I have a lot of veteran mates that haven't come today solely because of the welcome to country. Our friends died for this country, for this soil, and for them to be welcomed is a slap in the face." Regarding the booing, he said, "Yes, it was disrespectful, but these are the reasons people are not agreeing with it, because it's not the right time or place for it. It's not right to welcome veterans. World War II. This is about all the people who have died for this country. For them to welcome us to this country is disrespectful." Of course, Aboriginal elders and activists will argue that we're misunderstanding the purpose of a welcome to country. The headlines read, "Not about welcoming you into Australia. Huge misunderstanding about welcome to country." In the article, Dr. Jessa Rogers, an Associate Professor of Indigenous Education at the University of Melbourne, explained, "It's not about welcoming you to Australia. People think that a welcome to country is welcoming them to Australia, when in fact it is welcoming them to the specific country of that local Aboriginal nation. Country is not the same as Australia. It is a spiritual concept as well as a physical one. It encompasses landmarks, but also people, skies, waterways and beings. Country is what we belong to as Aboriginal people." Okay, I get it. It's not about welcoming Australians to Australia, but rather to a specific part of the country. Still, I would argue that's just as problematic. If we need to be welcomed to a particular land by an Aboriginal elder, doesn't that imply it's not truly our land? That sentiment doesn't sit well with many Australians. Just to be clear, according to Reconciliation Australia, a welcome to country can only be delivered by traditional owners or Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples who have been given permission from traditional owners to welcome visitors to their country. This makes it a distinctly racialised practice. Not just any Australian can give this welcome, only those with the correct ancestry. As a result, many everyday Australians feel excluded, sensing that they are not recognised as having the authority to welcome others to this land, implying that it does not fully belong to them. Perhaps the ceremony was relevant 10,000 years ago, if you believe its proponents, but modern Australia is a single nation. Sure, we have a playful rivalry between states, but ultimately, as a Queenslander, I'm free to travel to Tasmania. Tasmanians don't emerge from the scrub and declare, "Oh, welcome great Queenslander to the home of the Tasmanian devil." No, as Australians, we can move freely between states without the need for a traditional welcome. At the dawn service, Uncle Brown said, "I'm here to welcome everybody to my father's country." That's when the boos began. Well, I'm sorry, but calling it your father's country makes many people feel like it's not their country, or their land, or whatever you want to call it. For many, ironically, welcome to country feels anything but welcoming. And no, as I alluded to before, I'm not calling for the abolition of welcome to country ceremonies, although, as we saw earlier, many Australians seem to want that. Rather, I believe there is a time and place for them, such as welcoming foreign dignitaries to Australia. I think most Australians would be fine with that, as it doesn't really affect them. Plus, I suppose many foreign dignitaries would appreciate the gesture. But opening Anzac Day commemorations with welcome to country has gone one step too far. It's beginning to tread on people's toes. Indigenous veterans are still honoured at regular Anzac Day services. Opposition leader Peter Dutton sees the writing on the wall, with SBS reporting, "Welcome to country is overdone, cheapening its significance," says Peter Dutton. And the ABC reporting, "Peter Dutton suggests Anzac Day dawn services should not involve welcomes to country." The Melbourne Storm Rugby League Club is facing criticism, at least according to our public broadcasters and Aboriginal elder Auntie Joy Murphy-Wandin. The ABC reported, Aboriginal elder says Melbourne Storm told her welcome to country on Anzac Day would be inappropriate, while SBS stated, Auntie Joy's welcome to country was cancelled at the last minute by Melbourne Storm. Ms. Murphy-Wandin, whose father served in World War I, expressed deep sadness and shock over the cancellation. She mentioned needing time to reflect on whether she would continue collaborating with the club, uncertain about conducting another welcome there in the future. Look, you don't have to agree with me, but one thing is undeniable. Welcome to country has become a divisive practice. You can argue that only extremists oppose it, or you can acknowledge reality. Many Australians are simply tired of it. Perhaps it's time for a new ceremony, one that emphasises our shared ownership of the land.